We are joined now live by just a massive voice in the golf space, Brandel Chamblee from Golf Channel. Brandel, we've got you. Can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. I've enjoyed listening to you guys. You made me chuckle like 3, 4, 5 times.
We got chuckles out of Brandel Chamblee. That's a good start. So, Brandel, I wanted to ask you about this take here. Start off with, I said something similar. So it's year 4 of LIV, and I think you've been extremely outspoken about this. You said the PGA Tour is killing it, and LIV is dying a slow, costly death. It's year 4. They've accomplished their mission in the sense of they've signed a lot of huge name players, or at least were huge name players on the PGA Tour. But the numbers just aren't there. Do you feel like this can continue? Are they just going to continue bankrolling this? And do you think, and Alan Shipman has suggested that maybe the PGA Tour is not as gung-ho about making a deal now as they might have been a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with you that they haven't accomplished their mission. I think it was always the case that they were going to be able to buy some of these players. They had billions in unlimited funds. So that was a given. What was not a given was that they were going to create a product that was going to resonate, that was going to interest people, that was going to compel people to spend part of their day to watch a sport. People only really watch sports that matter. You know, you've only got so many hours in a day to invest in the entertainment aspects of watching a sport. I don't think there's any sense that anything that they're doing on LIV matters historically or will matter from a legacy standpoint. If you asked people in the golf business to go through every tour event this year and tell you who won, they could probably do it, right? If you ask people to do the same thing about LIV, there's just zero chance that they could do it, unless they're in the business that you're in, to get into granular detail about everything. So I think there's a sense that those that went to LIV sold their business really at a discount, I would argue. And so it's just not resonating. I think I got the numbers wrong on one of my tweets last week. I said their year-end event that concluded on the East Coast in prime time last year with Rahm winning got 55,000. It actually got 89,000. But whether it's 55 or 89, the point is still the same. Relatively speaking, almost nobody's watching. More people will watch a pickleball event than that. And you're talking about Jon Rahm, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Sergio Garcia, Bubba Watson. I mean, you're Phil Mickelson. You're talking about, ostensibly a star-chalked field, and nobody watched. I was in Orlando for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. My wife had a group of girls that she travels with, and they were out one night. So I was like, all right, I got to kill some time. So I went to a cigar bar. I'm sitting there, and the Lakers were playing the Knicks, and LIV Golf was over here. It was up on the screen. The bar was full. I'm watching. Not a single person was looking at the LIV event. Not a single person. They were all watching. Good reason to watch LeBron and Luka go at it. But it's not resonating with people.
Is it because the format's bad? I mean, I've talked about this on my show where, what TGL did is came in and made something that was so different that it's not trying to compete with, it's not a 72-hole golf tournament. It's not trying to be in, LIV came in with this team concept, and they were going to be all about team golf. Team golf is the future, but the team golf sort of going on in the background while there's an individual tournament because they're trying to, get world ranking points, and the guys kind of want to do it the way they've done it. There's been all this talk about iterating the format, and all the players are going to get, the teams are going to have home courses, and none of it's happened yet. Why? Is it because of the negative PR? Is it because of the format? Or is it kind of a waste of time to ask why it is and just accept the fact that it's not resonating?
All good questions. I would say TGL is resonating because for a lot of the same reasons that YouTube golf resonates with people. These guys go on there. I mean, there's a few of them that are very good players, but they go on there and they'll shoot 80, or they're like Trent from Barstool shooting a gazillion over. It resonates with people because you get to see his personality. They look like we do, and TGL is about tapping into YouTube golf. It's about tapping into the spirit that underpins the 16th hole at the WM Phoenix Open. It's like, let's celebrate life. Let's have a bit of fun. Let's not take ourselves so seriously. And that's what YouTube golf taps into. Very entertaining. You get to see their personalities. Well, in TGL, why would we cede all that ground to just YouTubers? Like, let's create, and I give Mike McCarley a lot of credit for coming up with this and the players for buying into it. Let's create a scenario where we can literally have some fun watching the best players in the world and hit some really seriously cool golf shots. LIV Golf is stuck in the middle. Like, it's a competition. Ostensibly, it's a competition, but it's chaotic. The staggered start, I think, really hurts them. Nobody who's seriously a golf fan would accept the fact that you're starting at different holes. Architects design golf courses to give you a building crescendo of chance. You just think about where we just came from through the Florida swing, and you think about the finishing holes at the Players. You think about the finishing holes at the Cognizant. You think about the finishing holes at the Valspar. There's a reason architect builds you a crescendo and do those. And if you disrupt that integrity with staggered starts, one, I think you're starting from a pretty poor place. And again, it just boils down to you're not getting their personality. Okay, that's not what LIV's about. I mean, it is somewhat, but you're not going to get it because they actually are trying to compete. But on the other sense, everybody watching knows that they're not really watching anything that matters. You can't get a sense. I'm sitting here getting ready for the Masters. So one of the things I'm doing is trying to assess who's playing well, who's not, what aspects of their game are vibing, what they're not. You can't get a real sense of that when you look at LIV because the golf courses are set up in an unprofessional manner. Not a lot of rough, not real long, not real tough, not real fast, not tough pins. So it's really hard unless they cross-pollinate and start playing in other events to get a sense of how they're playing. And I think you put all that together, and that's the reason nobody's tuning in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've said I think the guy with the most pressure going into major season this year is Joaquin Niemann because he's played great on LIV, but he hasn't done anything in a major. And it's like his star cannot be cemented unless he does something outside of LIV Golf. Now, you and I are two guys who get a lot of hate on the internet. Do you feel it in real life? Because I don't really feel it in real life. It feels like a lot of Twitter warriors. And does it affect you at all?
No, I don't feel it in real life. My wife and I, we travel around. I've been out in public a gazillion times and had people come up to me. Only one time have I had anybody come up to me in public and confront me. And it was a guy in LA, and he actually pulled his laptop out and had all of his criticisms of things I've said on a file in his laptop and wanted to go through it one by one. But he wasn't rude and he wasn't mean. He was like, and I was like, I had the time. We were out just strolling around in New York City, and I said, all right, take me through it. Let's go one by one. But other than that, no, I don't feel it. I don't know that X is real life. You don't even know who these people are. Most of them are bots bought by the Saudis to, encourage dissent. And it's just not the way that people communicate face to face. If I have a huge disagreement with somebody face to face, you realize that you can't have a conversation with them unless it's a reciprocal amount of respect that you exchange back and forth. Otherwise, someone's free to walk away. So it's just not the way people communicate face to face.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's people say, how do you get through it? I'm like, well, if I just don't look at the screen, it doesn't necessarily really exist. We had this thing pop up. I'm going to bring it up again. We've said a lot of, kind of negative, I would say, or just honest things about LIV. There was some debate about these exemptions on the Asian Tour and that were they designed for guys who played on LIV Golf, or were they designed for guys on the Asian Tour? And some people had some real problems with it. I actually didn't. Right? Like, these guys aren't banned from playing in those tournaments. They earned their way. Pro golf's a meritocracy. Did you have an issue with these guys kind of getting the back door into the Open Championship?
No, look, if you're on the Asian Tour, I mean, your goal obviously is to get to the next level and then to the next level. And to do that, you're going to have to face the best players in the world or some of the best players in the world. And those LIV players going to the Asian Tour brings more eyeballs, not a lot, but more eyeballs to the Asian Tour. So, for us to know the story of them, you have to get more eyeballs there. But at some point, they're going to have to go up against a different level of player and test themselves against it. So if I'm on the Asian Tour, I would be welcoming to get to test my game against a Jason Kokrak or a Joaquin Niemann or a Carlos Ortiz. Let's see where I stack up. If you're hoping to get into the Open Championship, well, they're all going to be there. So sooner or later, you're going to have to face the best players in the world. I had no problem with it. That's the world of professional golf.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wanted to ask you about the future of Tiger Woods. We were running through his results on this show, And we were looking, it's been 4 years, more than 4 years since the accident. And his best finish in 4 years since the accident is a tie for 45th at the Genesis Invitational. There's that 18th place at the Hero World Challenge, but it was against a field of 20. It was not pretty last year. You know, and I was listening to a podcast earlier today, Ben, and Bill Simmons said, you know, you're having your first kid is an ACL tear, and having your second kid is the Achilles tear. So it's already been used as a metaphor of like, this is a really brutal injury. Do we need to stop building up hope?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Bernhard Langer came back last year from an Achilles tear earlier in the year and then went on to win. I mean, Bernhard hasn't had the injuries, the surgeries, and all of the issues that Tiger Woods has had. But Tiger Woods, how many times has he blown our mind doing things that nobody thought he could do? I'm not going to say the most amazing thing he ever did was winning the 2019 Masters, but it's on that list. You know, him coming back from a bad back in the chipping yips was one of the most amazing things he's ever done. If you go back and you watch what transpired in 2014, 2015, no events in 2016, him coming back in 2017 at the Hero late in that year, and you saw him chipping into the grain uphill and chipping beautifully, you thought, all right, game on for 2018 to 2019. I don't know how he did it. You know, I think that would be one of the more compelling psychological achievements in the history of sport, to actually get to, you know, find out how he did it. You know, anybody who's ever had the chipping yips, well, I can't think of a single professional who's overcome the chipping yips, or even poor chipping. You know, you look at Victor Hovland. I wouldn't say he has the chipping yips, but it's very poor chipping. And, you know, he's still very poor, and he's devoted all of his energy to it for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I mean, it's just so difficult. Now, imagine taking it to the next step where he can't green a chip, where he's fattening them and he's blading them and he's shanking them. And, you know, that's sent, in my era, that has sent a handful of players off the tour that I can think of, you know, going back before you were in the game or following the game at a high level. Brett Ogle, hell of a player, gone. You know, I mean, I've never seen anybody come back from it. So to say that Tiger Woods can't, you know, I was watching him play or swing at TGL this year. His ball speed was 176. And I thought, let's go. Well, that was faster than it was the last time I saw him. I mean, here's his ball speed. His golf swing looked amazing. He was pushing off that right foot. So I've learned, you know, at some point you'll say never with Tiger Woods. But could he come back and all the stars line up again? Of course, he'd have to have all the plates spinning. It'd have to be warm. He'd have to have perfect tee times. He'd have to be on the right side of the draw. He'd have to be feeling good. It'd have to be a flat course. But maybe, you know, and it's still the most compelling thing in golf.
Fires me up. Ben's got a question for you.
Yeah, and I would say, too, Augusta's the one place where I think I'll never count him out there. Yeah. Just, I can see like a 55-year-old Tiger Woods winning the Masters 5 years from now, right? Yeah. Or at least
great, man.
Right? I want to, at least. That's wishful thinking. My question for you, Brandel, is you've been working in this business through like all of the micro eras that have come post the dominant Tiger era. Do you feel, both as a golf fan and as an analyst, that we're better off having like what we've been doing for 10 years, which is every time there's one of these micro events where you're like, oh, he's the next Tiger, he's the next Tiger? Or are we better off in a situation where there are 6 or 7 guys that could win every week and they're all juggernauts and we don't know which one of them's going to win every week, versus like waiting for like, oh, is Luke Clinton the next Tiger? Is Rory the next Tiger? Is Scotty the next Tiger?
Yeah, look, I think they're both good. You know, it's like, would you rather have Bananas Foster or Banana Split? You know, I mean, they're both damn good. What resonates the most with people is a clear and away dominant superstar. You know, that changed the game with Bobby Jones. It changed it with Hogan. It changed it with Palmer, Nicklaus, Seve, Norman, and it changed it with Woods, more than having parity at the top. Parity at the top is nice, but, you know, that's more the norm. It's extraordinary when someone comes along and really separates themselves. You know, I'll just say real quick, though, Ben, you know, people early on in my TV career, people would call me a Tiger critic. And And look, I mean, I started, if you think about when I started doing TV, it was in 2004. Now think about what had happened in 2004. Tiger Woods had just won 4 majors in a row, the Players and the Canadian Open, all in a span of a year. He'd is in the middle of making 142 cuts in a row. And he was winning by 12 and 15 and 8 shots, these major championships. And he changed that golf swing. So I am now sitting down for the first time ever at a desk as an analyst. And the first question I get is, why would he change that golf swing? It's the craziest thing in the history of sport, what Tiger Woods did. Absolute, without question, there's nothing that comes close in the history of sport to somebody who was that. This would be like Steph Curry decided to change the way he shoots three-pointers.
Steph going like granny style from the free throw line.
Changed it. I don't know enough about basketball to make any analogy here, but I'm going to move my elbow this way or that way because somebody told me to do it. And by the way, somebody told him to do it who can't even shoot baskets. You know, Hank Haney was telling Tiger Woods how to play golf, and Hank Haney has the driver yips, can't hit a range. Okay, and this guy is telling Tiger Woods how to change his golf swing from the greatest golf swing in the history of the game. So it was my job to shed a little light on that, and I still maintain that's the craziest thing in the history of sports. Yeah. So
that reverberated to like a guy like Victor Hovland changing coaches every week, like because somebody that good made that big of a decision. Are there younger guys, or I guess 30-year-old guys now that grew up watching Tiger that are like, well, Tiger changed his swing when it was perfect. Like I can make any change anytime. Max Homa, for instance, like I can just change my equipment now.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you make it to the tour, you're not only very talented, you're type A personality likely, and you're unbelievably driven. And what's that adage about great is the enemy of good? The thing that I think is the larger thing to learn from what Tiger Woods did was it cost him 2 years of his career 3 different times in the absolute sweet spot of his career. No question he would have broken Jack Nicklaus's major championship record. No question he would have broken Sam Snead's total wins. Tiger would have had 100+ wins. He'd had 20+ major championships. And similarly with Victor Hovland, right in the absolute sweet spot of his career, he cost himself roughly 2 years of what could have been the best golf he's ever played. If you go back to when he won the FedEx Cup and then deciding that he needs to change his golf swing, here you are 2 years down the road, and maybe he would argue, but he may well just arrive back at the same spot he was at the cost of 2 years. That is the greatest resource an athlete had at the time. Yeah. And he's in the prime of his career. Same thing, similarly, Justin Thomas didn't really like the way his swing looked. So he decided to sort of messing with it a little bit. And he's now gone 2 years and hasn't won, trying to get back to where he was. Imagine Jack Nicklaus in '66 seeing a video of himself and going, I think I'm too upright. I'm going to try to swing a little bit flatter. The ability to look at video and go into data deep dives and change what is already working is certainly an epidemic of this generation because they have so much information, but it's very, very dangerous. The most dangerous place at a golf course is not Amen Corner. It's not the snake. It's not the bear pit. It's the driving range. Yeah. That is the most dangerous place at any tour event. More games are killed there than anywhere else.
Amazing stuff. My last question for you, you've already taken way too much of your time. Actually, I have 2 more. Sorry. Do you have a Masters pick? Are you ready to make a Masters pick?
It's a bit early. I will be grinding all week. Early call would be Colin Morikawa. He'd be my favorite. The heavy emphasis on cutting it off hook lies, on iron play, on pitching. He's much improved in pitching.
His short game's been really good for 2 years.
Very good. So, Scheffler is way off his game compared to where he was last year going into the event, compared to where he was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, way off his game. But still, he would be my second favorite. And then, Rory is always an interesting choice going into the Masters. It's his worst major, and yet he's chipping the ball beautifully, scrambling beautifully. But right now, if I had to bet, I'd bet on Colin Morikawa at this point.
All right, and Brandel, my last thing, I wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't say this. Live From is my favorite show in the world. It is my dream to be on that show. I feel like you maybe know a guy, so I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just putting it in the ether, and we'll make of it what we might. Okay?
You know what we're doing is we are including, you know, more social media influences. We are, you know, I think Johnson Wagner's brought a whole new vibe to the show, and the influx of YouTube golf and podcasts has really changed the way we looked at who we're going to have guests on. So, you know, it's in the cards, Daniel. We had Riggs on this year at the WM Phoenix Open, and he was unbelievable. He was so good, very entertaining. And, you know, with these creator classics and the success of YouTube golf and podcasts, it's certainly a possibility. So that'd be fun. And by the way, I've enjoyed listening to the show. I tuned in early, and you guys entertained me, and you made me chuckle, and you made me think about what's going on in the world of golf. So congrats.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brandel. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Brandel.
You bet. Anytime. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Ben.